Alright, this tutorial video is going to show you how to install WordPress on an existing server setup. So I'm going to assume that you have WAMP or MAMP or something else set up and ready to go, and this is the procedure on how to get WordPress working. And so first thing to note is that you have WAMP set up. Here's your root web directory. Normally if this is a fresh WAMP install, you won't have anything inside this. It'll just be empty. Maybe an index that is the WAMP auto load or home screen. So these are all my projects that I've been working on, but we're going to be putting this WordPress install into I've made a little new folder here just named WP. Keep it real simple, WP for WordPress. And so if you notice the file folder structure here, we have WAMP install, the WAMP www root, and then a folder called WP inside that. You'll notice I already have WordPress downloaded. I'll show you where to get that in a second. But to show you on the WAMP home screen here, when you load that up, it shows you a similar directory listing, and you'll notice the folder here we've selected. And when we go to that, it shows us what's in that folder, which is right now just this WordPress zip. Okay, so when we want to download WordPress, WordPress updates new versions, and so you want to start with the freshest install so you don't have to do a bunch of updating. And so you go to wordpress.org/download to get the latest version of WordPress. Click download, it'll download this zip. I've already moved it into my WP WordPress folder here that we're going to be working with. So then you're going to extract the files here, and I'm going to extract them, I guess, directly in here. And I think it creates a WordPress folder, and where it's dumping all of this, which is fine. We're going to need to move everything out of that WordPress folder into the main directory. So I'll show you that in a second when it finishes up here. I could probably pause this and restart it, but I'm not real familiar with this screen recording program. So alright, so now we have this WordPress folder here, and that's not where we want these files. The files inside here we want to be in the directly in our WP folder. So I'm going to select everything here, Control X to cut, and then move back to the WP folder and paste all of these in here. Okay, so now our zip and our WordPress folder are no longer needed. The WordPress folder is empty. We just moved everything out of it, and the WordPress zip, we can get it again from WordPress.com if we need to. I'm just going to go ahead and delete those because we don't need it. And this is everything we need. Not everything, but this is mostly what we need in terms of the files to get WordPress running. Okay, so the next step is to, well, let's pretend that we don't set up our database. That's the next step, is to set up the database. But if we don't set up the database and we go directly to our website and we reload this, now we have a bunch of files in there. And in fact, one of them, the index file, notices that we don't have everything configured properly, and it says, okay, there is no WP config file, wp-config.php file. We need this before we get started. And they'll create one for you. Now, see what happens when we click next here. Okay, so yes, now it gives us a list of everything that we need to get going here. We need the database name, username, password, host, and table prefix, which don't worry about the table prefix. Okay, so basically what it's saying here is we need the database. Now, one cool thing about WAMP is that it gives you PhpMyAdmin set up and ready to go as well. And so PhpMyAdmin here, if we click on this from the home screen, it loads up localhost/PhpMyAdmin, and this is a user interface for managing your MySQL database, which is awesome and exactly what we need here. Okay, so we need to add a new database. It looks like they've upgraded this interface, so I'm kind of figuring my way through here, but I'm going to guess we're going to go to databases, create database. We're going to call it WP and click create. Not a very unique name for your database, and it might have naming conflicts later, so I would suggest picking something more unique, but this is our example, so here we go. And you'll notice that the database now shows up in our list here, and then we need to add a user to this database. So everything's almost there. It's very as simple as that, but now we're going to click on WP, and we don't need to create any tables or anything else like that because WordPress is going to do all that for us. All we need to do is go add a user, which is under the privileges screen, and we're going to say add user. Which, make sure before we do this, make sure you're inside the WP database when you click on privileges and then add new user, because this needs to be assigned to that database. Okay, so the username, we're just going to say it's WP. The host is, you can, from this drop down menu, just click localhost and it'll pre-fill it for you. The password, we're going to generate a password. Now make sure you copy and paste this password. Control C. We need this password. We're going to paste that into our database setup. Alright, now we're going to give all privileges for the database WP to this user, and when we're ready to go, that's pretty much all we need. We're going to click add user down here. Okay, so as you can see, we've added the new user. The user's name is WP, which matches the database name. I don't know if that's recommended or not, but again, this is just a quick, easy example to get us going. Alright, so we're good to go. By the way, this shows you all the SQL statements. If you're into that, you can run these via command line or anywhere else to do everything that we just did, but this user interface does it for us, so that's cool. Alright, so now we're going back to our WordPress install. We have our database set up and ready to go. The database name is WP. The database username is WP. The password I have copied to my clipboard, so I'm going to paste that in. And the database host is localhost. Prefix is going to be WP by default. As you can see, the table basically every table in the database is going to be prefixed by this, which is fine. That's the default. Just leave it as it is. Alright, so the database name is WP, username, WP, password, control paste, localhost, and leave this alone, and we're good to go. Click submit. Alright, Sparky, you're almost there. Just click run the install. Okay, so looks like everything worked correctly. I actually haven't read any of this stuff here, but our site title is just, WordPress test. This doesn't matter, you can change it later. It's just it's going to show up as like the name of your site, so it is used admin. I just create a very simple password that's weak but easy to type, and the email address goes down here. Yeah, search engines, whatever. This is localhost, so no search engines are going to find your site anyway. We install it. We've created an admin username and password. Now this password you should remember. It should just be something quick and easy to type, because you will need to log in with it. Right here, it asks you to log in, and bam. Sure, Chrome, you can save my password. So we're logged in, good to go, and this is WordPress. So I will potentially make some other videos that explain more how to use WordPress, but there are hundreds of them out there already. In fact, what we just did here of setting up our own server WordPress environment is slightly complicated, and not as many people do this as there are people who use WordPress.com. And in fact, if you go to WordPress.com, they have free hosting, and you can sign up for a blog directly through WordPress. And when you get your blog, you get to log into it and see, where did it go? Exactly what we're seeing here. This is, the same user interface, the same everything as on WordPress.com. Only the difference is that on WordPress.com you can't edit any of the files. You can't. You don't have FTP access. There's so much more that you can do if you own the code, if you have it on your own server, and if you have full control over it. And one last thing, just in case you don't know, this button right here is a shortcut to your site. So when you click that, you'll notice the URL changes from WPAdmin. This is our dashboard, and with all of our settings and stuff, the back end, so to speak. If we click this, this is the name of our site that we entered in there, and if we click that, it takes us to the front end, which is just that localhost /WP. This is the root of our WordPress folder here. This is the name of our site. You can add a slogan to your site. You can customize these menus, and it kind of comes preloaded with a standard theme here. So yeah, I think that's all. Hope this helped.